Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. Happy Tuesday. This is Dr. Laurie Davis, and you're listening and watching the Dr. Laurie Davis Show. And right now we're streaming live on E360 TV. We're also streaming live right now on my YouTube channel, Laurie Davis Show Host. Just go into YouTube and search. And also on our Facebook page, Self-Worth the Missing Link Superstars. And I have another superstar with me today, Dr. Verlaine Crawford, and she's joining me today because I wanted her to. And she said, okay. And we had to juggle a few dates, but we're here. And welcome to the show, Verlaine.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you and to be able to greet your audience. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we've got lots of things exciting that we're going to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is my viewer that just showed up, Cheryl. Oh my gosh. Yes. Hello. Cheryl Wozniak from Manitoba, Canada is listening right now. So welcome to the show. Yes, I understand. My account was severely hacked in Facebook. I had to drop, I lost contacts, everything. But thank you that you're back. And I opened up a new page with my maiden name, Laurie Jeffers Davis. So if you get that, you're in the right ballpark. So Cheryl, great to see you again. I want to talk to you too. You're one of the people that I want to talk to. So I told Verlaine, this is how I get a one-on-one with very special people, is bring them on the show. So let's start, Verlaine. Let's start about talking about our association with the beautiful lady, Dr. Robbie Motter, who put together a compilation book. And what was your angle in your chapter? How did you approach that invitation to write a chapter?
Well, it was about just showing up. And I had gotten into the computer industry as a marketing executive, which was quite a shock for me. But they needed someone that could give a more personal and experiential kind of feeling to the situation. So I happen to be quite intuitive and psychic, you might call, and I was trying to find out what would be the next product for our company. They had a word processor. In fact, one of the reasons they was the second company I went to, and one of the reasons I went to them, it was called Crystal Writer, and I love crystals. And I want to say to the audience that people watch it, pay attention to that. You know, it's the little things that sometimes will lead you in the right direction, that you say, I love crystals. Why shouldn't I go work with someone like that? So anyway, I was looking at a page and of a magazine, and I said, what should be the product? And believe it or not, 3 words lit up in the page in different locations, and it said document management system. I said, cool, that sounds right. Then the next thing that happened is I heard about AT&T was going to have a presentation. And this company that I'd come to with Crystal Writer, they hadn't made hardly any money in 5 years. But it was a great product that worked with Unix, which would be AT&T and all the big government organizations and everything, rather than the DOS. So I said, we have to go to this meeting. He said, oh, they just want to sell computers. And I said, no, we have to go. So we get there, they give their presentation. And he said, see, that's all they want to do is sell computers. And I said, no, now we have to look for the person with light around them. And he looks at me, and I think he was thinking, why did I hire this person? And so I'm looking around, and on stage, I see somebody that actually feels like there's light around the person. Now, we all have an aura, and sometimes we can actually see something like that. And so I said, we have to go on stage there and talk to this man. So he's following me along. And I get there, and his name was Bob White Cotton. So I love that he lit up and his name was White Cotton, right? And so he's from headquarters in New Jersey. And I said, we're from Crystal Writer, and we're developing a document management system. And he basically let out kind of a scream. Really? All my life, I've been wanting a document management system. Anyway, he ended up flying me to New Jersey, picked up by a limousine, went to the headquarters, and met with this wonderful woman, did a negotiation. We got 250,000 up front, which no one was doing that at the time, to the program, and we became the word processor of choice of AT&T. So that was showing up. And I found it in so many different examples in my life. When you show up in a location that has some promise, you never know what's going to happen. But listen very closely to your intuition. So that was my story.
Awesome. Well, I kind of approached it from, I put memory number 1 of showing up and asking, memory number 2, memory number 3. So let me see. I'll just pick one and share it briefly. It was about oh yes, this will take us back. You'll remember when houses only cost, less than a vehicle costs today.
That's right.
So memory number 5 was this. Driving by on a rural highway, I saw it. Shining red with white trim under a myriad of huge trees, which I knew would become my first home. There was a for sale sign. I stopped and wrote down the number of the real estate agent. Upon returning home, I called to make an appointment for a viewing. We were married only just a year and knew we wanted to start off owning our very own house. It was listed for $21,000. Yes. My husband was skeptical because according to him, our limit would be $18,000. That's what we could plan on spending. I negotiated with him on this and insisted we should purchase the house as an investment. That made total sense to me. Of course, we would need to get a mortgage. Now, here is the kicker. In 1972, in Nova Scotia, Canada, when applying for a mortgage, they did not include the woman's earnings in the calculations. I know. And I was making more money than he was. I thought, what? I was the one making the most money with my teaching career. I was furious. I made an appointment with the mortgage company and demanded to speak to the manager to discuss the whole issue. I could not believe it. I entered his office by myself to have a discussion as to why this was the case. His response was that they could not rely on a woman's income because I would only be working a year or two and then the babies would be arriving.
Oh my God.
Can you believe this? I made it very clear that this was not the case. And even if babies did arrive, I planned to pursue promotions and advances in my chosen career, which by now the reader might have learned that's exactly what transpired. He also let me know my timing was impeccable because there were some policies under scrutiny in this very area of allowing the woman's salary to be included. I explained this was discriminatory and unacceptable. I remember the look on his face when I shared that if our mortgage would not be approved and I was to lose out on my pretty little house among the trees, I would go higher up in the company. I would go to the press and the media.
All right. Yeah.
Well, once I got into my car, I was shaking like a leaf on one of those towering trees and the tears flowed. I had scared myself thinking that I could march in there and face that man. 1 week later, to the day, the phone rang and it was the manager from the mortgage company. He said, Laurie, I'm excited to share with you that your mortgage has been approved and we only needed to add in half of your salary to make it all work. Thank you for coming in and helping me to see how unfair these policies were as we need to make changes. And as a company moving forward, we had already started those negotiations. Your timing was perfect.
Oh my God.
I know I helped to make history. 2 years later, we flipped the property for $45,000.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So that was how I approached it. But I thought the project was amazing. I think there were about 60 of us, right, that wrote a chapter?
Yes. Yes. That is fabulous. Isn't that just fabulous? I mean, if it was like that here in the U.S., it's the same as Canada.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't, a woman couldn't buy a home by herself.
No. Oh, no, 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 no. So to all of you young women out there who've been able to go get homes, you can thank the women like us who,
Yes,
you know,
definitely.
paved the way, right?
Paved the way. Yeah, so many
That's
of
right.
my positions that I held, like director of sales for the Lodge of Pebble Beach, which was, very big, beautiful resort. The men would come in and go, "Are you sure you can do this job?" I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. Mhm.
and it was like, "Yeah." I
Yeah, I
filled it for
can.
the next 5 years completely, with groups and meetings and yeah,
Wow.
and we were all women, and they were really scared, like that they just never saw that before. And
Right.
we've come a long way. We've come
Yeah,
a long
we do. We have. So let's talk about you were part of that book, and then since then you've also published your own personal book. Let's hold that up and show the title, and let's have you speak about what inspired you.
Oh yeah, sure,
Oh,
good. Whoops.
yeah, the power of wholeness. Yes, put it in the
Now we get
center.
it
What's your tagline down there? What's it say? Discover.
right. Discover a more fulfilling, successful, and rewarding life.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been a labor of love. What happened was I had written a book called Ending the Battle Within. It was the first book that I wrote. And I wanted to, and this was back in 94, and the floppy disks no longer worked. So couldn't reproduce it. So I went through the process of copying every page and doing everything. And then what happened, I thought I was just going to reproduce it, in that form, but it started to evolve into a new book. And so that's why it's called The Power of Wholeness. And it's much, I think, easier to read than the original. And the meat of it is there. And of course, a lot of 30 years more of experience went into it. And it comes from the fact that, well, we were talking earlier that I had been stabbed in a parking garage. And what happened out of that, I mean, my lung collapsed, and as I developed what I called total fear, left
No
hand fear,
kidding.
right hand fear, total fear. And I had to move out of LA, and I moved back to Carmel, which was had where I went to high school. And, it's such a beautiful, peaceful place. But I still was afraid. And I still had to look behind me all the time and see who might be behind me. And so I went to a workshop and I learned this integration technique. It was only a minor part of a neurolinguistics programming workshop. And it was miraculous. I got to be the volunteer. I raised my hand. And what happened out of it, I started using it for all kinds of experiences, things that were bothering me, or different events that would take place, and especially for this particular event. And it's a miracle. What I think happens, what we're talking about, is we've got two different parts of us that we bring up to talk to. And I call them subpersonalities. We've got all these different subpersonalities who hold beliefs. I call them the keepers of our beliefs. And they hold on to this belief. So it can be any kind of wording that you put together, a sentence put together, and that you say, this is true, becomes a part of that belief system. And those beliefs activate our thoughts, and they then, from those thoughts, we start to make action, some kind of decision, right? You and your house, you decided this was your house. That was a truth. And you fought for it. And so we have beliefs like that. And we move forward with them. We do action. And out of that action, we create our lives. And so it's a process that the belief is like a seed. So a simple belief is like my mom used to say, don't go out in the rain, you'll catch cold. And this was as a little kid, because I love to go out and run around in the rain. And but she said this, and she kept saying it. And so it was there inside of me. And in my 20s, I was working in an office. I ran to my car through the rain. And when I got in the car, I had a sore throat. And I said, this is ridiculous. I can't get a sore throat that quickly. It was the belief that set it off. And so I said, what if there was a way that I could be in the rain and I wouldn't get sick? And the part of you that has said, well, you always get sick if you go in the rain, and you bring them together after they've had a discussion. And that's what the book is about. It's about all the different ways that we can heal ourselves, that we can change our lives, change our situations by changing our beliefs and looking at those core beliefs.
Well, they're deeply entrenched. And so the older we become, the more difficult, I think, to shift that, because I work with youth and I work with people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, but our young people haven't had the years of entrenchment. So it's easier to flip it, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. You can just basically mention it and get it together. But when you hold on, but I've had teenagers, that have got a belief that they are not aware of. We are usually not
Okay.
aware that
Yeah.
this is there, except if you want to know what you believe, look at your life.
Right.
Okay, that is the result of your beliefs. You're living in what kind of an environment? Your friends are what kind of people? You have what kind of a job? All these things have to do with what you believe about yourself and about the world. And we have softened so many beliefs that limit us. Oh, you can't do that. It's like when I had this opportunity to move into doing marketing for the computer industry in the 1980s. It was just starting. I didn't know anything about computers. And I thought, well, I can't do that. They want me to be vice president of marketing of a startup company. I don't know anything. And my partner, John, said, you could do anything. In fact, that was something my mother did say to me. You can do anything. And those kinds of statements, those kinds of beliefs that get implanted, if they are there, help you tremendously. But if you've got another part that's saying, "Oh, you can't do that. What do you know? Nothing." So you have to say, "Okay, what if there was a way that I could quickly learn? I could quickly access that information. I could be able to use that information that I somehow will receive and do a fine job with that." And it says, well, I don't know. Is that possible? And you say, well, we can find out. So we send that part to the creative part of us to come up with ways that can happen. And you don't have to know how they are. We ask for 3 ways usually. And so subconsciously, you're going into the higher aspect of what you have as your resources beyond what you think you have. And you bring that together and they start working together. And that's the power of wholeness, which is the book. You unify your inner team, you bring them together, and it's just miraculous how it changes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, I had my own personal experience, which I shared with you before the show, because last year at this time, it'll just be a year on the 1st of September that I had a complete hysterectomy. I had cancer. There was a cluster of cells just on the wall of my uterus, and they suggested, my surgeon said, we'll do a hysterectomy and that'll just take care of things. But from the 1st of May till the 1st of September, I constantly exercised what you do, because you taught me that, and how the cancer would be. And at the time, I had 2 cousins of mine. One has passed too, with cancer. We were all diagnosed right around the same time. But anyway, last week I went for my 1-year post exam. They can't even find any scar tissue where I even had an operation. My scars are gone on my tummy. I had 6 incisions there. All my blood work came back. There's nothing. I don't take medication of any kind for anything. But that's because I hold the belief of health, 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 health.
And
And
then
I even signed up for the gym last
yes.
last
Yeah.
month. And when I told my doctor that, she said, You did? Well, she said, I guess there's no need to send you for a bone density test. I
Oh,
said, "No."
oh.
So what you're saying is what I know to be true and has been my
Yeah,
life.
I've helped people from so many different areas, from people that have had cancer to people that can't seem to make any money. I can't tell you how strange some of our beliefs are. They're so
Oh, their lies.
convoluted. It's like a spider's web in there. You have all this strange things that are hooked together. Uh, One fellow, I remember, he had a belief that wealth becomes a trap, that you get hooked into a wealthy lifestyle, but it's much better to be poor, and not have any money. And I
I
was like,
see.
you're going, it
No.
doesn't mean that the belief is logical. It just is there. And what I also have found, what really seems, I read once that we hold memories as crystals in the mind. And so when you do the integration, I call it the infusion integration process. And when you bring these hands together, the two that have been arguing, the two have been opposed to each other, I think it melts the crystal. You bring them up to
Oh,
your
yeah.
heart.
Cool.
And that, because I've seen it change instantaneously. I had the opportunity to go to Japan about 6 times, teaching and doing this process with the people. And I don't know if you realize that the Japanese are very divided. They really don't get scared if their children act real creative or anything. They get very regimented, and so to work with them was different, because you had to just be there in that energy with them and say, what is your problem? And I tell you, like 90% of the time, as we brought those hands together and had them hold each other, the two parts of themselves, and bringing them to their chest and to their heart, tears would come down their eyes, from their eyes, and
Yes.
they shifted within 1 hour with a translator. You're talking about really a half an hour of the shift that takes place with this. When you did your shift, you said the next day, was it that you received $25,000, a contract that you didn't expect,
That's right.
right? Yeah, and
Mhm.
it happens like that. And I'm telling you, get the book, and/or give me a call, write to me at my Gmail, and let me help you with this, because once you've learned it, and the book is all about learning how to do it in different ways, for different processes, for different experiences, all the way from being hooked on being depressed, to love affairs, to oh my God, it covers everything that I could think of.
Well, everything that how people walk around, you and I both know this from our work. They're walking around and there's this battle going on inside all the time. And how much energy does that take?
It
I
takes
like
all your energy. It takes all your
yes.
energy, and
That's
at
why
the end of
people
the
are
day, you get so upset, and people. I understand. I don't have it anymore, but those voices, duh,
yeah,
you're no good. You could do this. Oh, you don't do that. And you're just so confused by all of that's going on, and the media. My God, it just completely makes you crazy. And politics. If I have finally just said I can't watch anymore. It looks like a cartoon. It's just too
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
And the idea is to pay attention to what is going on in your life, and then stand back and look at it, and really say, okay, what is it that I want in my life? What is it? I say there's 4 cornerstones of life: your health, first and foremost, your wealth, which is all your medium of exchange. And sometimes you don't have to have the money to do things. Like, I got to travel most of my life. In fact, I don't think I've ever paid for a trip, because it became part of my job. And or whatever way that, like with the Japanese thing, they'd be paying for my trip and paying for me to come there. So all these different experiences did not take money. So your wealth is how you exchange your creativity, your abilities for an experience. So then you have your love life, right? You've got health, wealth, and love. These are the cornerstones, and your self-expression. And so many times people leave out their self-expression, which is the creative energy flowing through you. And it's a healing energy. As you let that energy come through, if you're going to do any kind of a hobby, or if you sing or you dance or you do anything creative, you are healing yourself. You are
Yes.
bringing health to you. So those are the four cornerstones. So if any one of them is missing, the building starts to tilt, right? So that is what it is about in terms of uh, looking at your life, looking at what you want, and then looking at the advantages of not having it.
Hmm.
Because the part of you that's trying to stop you always, 100% of the time, thinks it's helping you. That's the most amazing part. And it's the hardest part when you're trying to figure out, okay, so I don't have enough money for the bills. What what is it doing for me? What? Like, and then if you get into it and you think about it, well, it keeps me working. It keeps me busy. It keeps me thinking, uh, you know, 100 different things that maybe that part has come up with as a reason to stop the money coming from you. Besides the fact that it might think it's not good because, rich people aren't great. They don't care about other people and all these other beliefs that aren't true. They are
That's
true
right.
for you, and they mess up your life because you believe them.
Well,
So,
I had a homeroom teacher, grade 10, first day of high school. I was so looking forward to high school, like we all did. And she looked at me and she had looked at my marks in junior high, which weren't great. And she said, your chances are you're probably not going to amount to anything. Yeah.
oh,
Now, being the kind of person that I was and am, I went, what is she talking about? I have dreams. I have goals. I have plans,
yeah,
right? But you see someone else, someone different. And I say this to my teacher friends. I say, you be very careful what you say to the students because that might be the boy that would go home and because of that one comment that you made, like that was made to me, and I've got other experiences I could share. That might be the boy that would go home and go into a closet and take his own life because
yeah,
he's finally been confirmed and validated that he has no value, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
we have to be very careful what we say
Yeah,
to each
my
other.
my partner John had a similar situation. One of his English teachers said, "Well, you're very creative. You're a good storyteller, but you'll never be a writer because you can't you do the grammar right, and you're just not never going to be a writer." So a couple of years ago, John and he had started writing some what was going to be a children's book. Well, it turned into a fantasy adventure novel, 400 pages. I
Wow.
edited, he wrote it. He is incredibly creative. It's called Portals in Time: The Quest for Unold Age. And it's just fabulous. 400 pages, fabulous book, 12 book awards. We got
Wow.
12 book awards. I mean, it's and a gold medal from Reader's Views, And so I said, I wish the guy was here for you to show it to him. These, 5-star reviews with this guy.
Yeah. Right.
This compares to Alice in Wonderland and the Pilgrim's, whatever it's called, Pilgrim's Progress or something. It's a literary masterpiece. And I just go, all these years saying he couldn't write. Come on.
Yeah. And I held that belief.
Yeah. How's that belief? Listen, anybody that's listening to this, please look at your beliefs. They're
Oh,
stopping
yeah.
you, and ask, what is it doing for you? I know it sounds crazy, but it is. And so you mentioned me reading something out of my book. Is this a good
Yes,
time?
I would love for you to do that.
Okay, because this is one of my favorite things that I love to talk about. And that is when I start a seminar, usually I say, we think of ourselves as captain of our ship, master of our fate. I see it as a pirate ship, and the crew is planning mutiny. So here, imagine that you are the captain of a sailing ship, and the crew is talking behind your back as they plan to take charge. The captain controls the ship's crew and steers the ship on a direct course to your desired location. You must be ready to make immediate decisions when facing all circumstances. Yet as you look around, you may discover you are not the captain you want to be. Sometimes you feel out of control or directionless amid a stormy sea. You might proudly state, I'm captain of my ship, yet within seconds your attitude and behavior change. An angry word, an accident, or any number of events may trigger a shift within you, and suddenly the captain acts differently. Who is this new captain now taking control of your life? Deep inside, there seems to be a battle raging on board the ship. The crew is planning mutiny. So
I
who
love
takes?
that.
Is that fun?
I love that.
Yeah, because it's just so vivid to see it. And I even think of, we have some of these parts of us, these subpersonalities down in the hold, right? They're in chains in the hold. And ever so often they yell out, let's take a credit card tour of the world.
Yeah.
Right? Something really logical for you to do. But it's very, very important. And I'm stressing it so much. And now the other part, which I know you're aware of, is your intuition, your inner knowing. And that is what I call your universal GPS. Okay. And your universal AI, artificial intelligence. It's not artificial. Your intelligence of the universe. That is available to you. I think of ourselves mostly all the time going around like we're just a personal computer and we're not hooked up to the universal intelligence, which is there. I mean, how did I make it through being a first time computer expert marketing person, right? The information flowed to me. Seriously, it was amazing. Where to market, who to talk to, and there were no books on it in the 80s. There was no information because it just started, and it was phenomenal. So I believe totally in our intuition. It will guide you like on a beautiful treasure hunt to whatever you want. And that's the point. If you make a list of what you'd like, of your plan and your things that you'd like to have happen in your life, and put a date, always put a date next to it. And the reason you put the date is so you can see if it happened by that time, right? So if it doesn't, that's when you want to look and do the integration. You want to say, okay, I wanted this to happen. It seems I've gotten close to it taking place, but it's not happened. So here's a part of me must be stopping it. What are you doing for me by stopping this from happening? Oh, like one time I said I wanted to be on TV. I didn't even specify what it was. And the part of me said, well, you don't want to be famous. I said, well, who says I'm going to be famous? I just want to be on TV, And so it's like they have all these strange beliefs that, don't make any sense. So anyway, that's my story of the captain and
Oh,
being on
wow.
the ship.
Right. Well, I said yesterday on my show, we did a show, we called it Sexability, because I like to talk about things that people don't want to talk about, like you and I are doing today. We're talking about things that people are not tuned into or have not acknowledged, or I call it denial. A lot of people are in denial about not just the bad stuff that's happened, but the good stuff. They're in denial about how beautiful they are, how
Yes.
talented they are. They don't think that what they have to say has value. And these are all back to what you're talking about,
Yes.
beliefs.
Yeah.
I believe I'm ugly. I believe I'm not very smart. I believe, and we base those beliefs on input, usually from people who know less than we do,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
we
And
believe them.
yes. And that brings up another part of my concepts that every person outside of you is one of those parts of you showing up outside. So let's say that you don't believe that you're attractive, and that, you've, in my case, I could say, well, I'm just too old, to do anything. And, but obviously I don't feel that way. But let's say I did. Well, I did actually. I did. When I turned 50, I thought, oh, I'm a little old to be getting a job. So when I went for a job interview, they'd say, well, you're a little old for the job. They would almost say identically what I'm thinking in my head, right? Yeah. I mean, and that's what you'll notice, that if someone says something to you that's upsetting, usually you'll say, oh, no, 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 that's not true. But if you look, there's a part of you saying that. That's why you have to talk to them. Say, this is not necessary, because they're showing you often at extreme what you are thinking, what your belief is. Oh, one example I did. I was working for the American Cancer Society, and I was doing marketing, and they had a little flyer that they were going to poster. They were going to put up at what do you call it, at the football stadium here in Pasadena, and for a sale. All these people do sales, like a garage sale, but it's at a big place. The woman came up to me, who is the sales manager, and said, you can't do that. You can't have that poster like that. And I said, what's wrong? She says, the color of the logo is, the blue is off, or red, whichever color it was. I said, it's going to be just a sign at the, it isn't important. It isn't that important. She went on and made a big ruckus. And so she went crazy about it. So I said, okay, now I'm going home, and I have this belief, this idea that I created that, okay? That a part of me created that situation and her behavior. So I'm in the bathtub trying to soak it out, trying to relax, trying to figure out, what is she showing me that I have within me? And finally I got it. Perfectionism. Because I have a tendency to be a perfectionist. Well, she was perfectionist at the extreme, right? So I said, okay, Verlaine, what if there's a way that you didn't have to be so perfect all the time? What if we could just put that together, and we would be able to do things without having it be perfect? To the heart. Well, you know what happens? When you do that, about an event like that with somebody that's really bugging you, that person either changes or they're out of your life. Well, her office door was next to mine as a sales manager. I'm the marketing manager. Do you know I never saw that person, or never talked with her really again? She would run by my office because she'd be making trouble for other people. But I never had to deal with her again, even though we were in the same office. So these are the kinds of things that we're talking about, the fact that we have far more power than we think we do, that we have
Bingo.
this incredible energy that is magical, that we can create, and that creation can be positive and it can be negative. And so that's what we have to look at, and that's what my book is about, the power of wholeness. And basically all my books, the heart of the heart of transformation, and all the different books that I've written and will be writing, is about that idea of really taking ownership of the power that's within you, and bringing together your inner team, the crew on your ship, so that you can have it and be able to create what you desire and help the world with it, and so forth. And then your life becomes peaceful. Your mind becomes quiet. That's what's happened for me. It's been such a relief not to have noise in my head. When I went through a divorce, it was like, I called it, my head was like a bowling alley. There was so much noise. And when I finally forgave and let it go, the quiet came back. So that's how I feel about all of this information, that it's important to go inside. So there was a person that I read their information. They said, too many people have a house they sit on the porch for their whole life and they never go inside. And that's our body. We're so preoccupied with what's going on outside of us that we don't go inside and find our true power and our true ability and that connection to the universal intelligence that's there for you.
Mhm. I agree. Speaking of that, they did a study on that. This was years ago now. The average North American, back in the day, we're talking 20 years ago that I read this research. I hope it's changed, but the average North American spends $5,000 a year looking good on the outside. That would be glasses and hair and nails and clothes and whatever. And $150 a year on the inside.
Wow.
Now, I don't have a problem spending that 5,000 because but if you're going to spend the 5,000 on the outside, we have to spend the 5,000 on the inside so that it becomes authentic. In other words, what you see is not what you're getting, right?
Right.
People look terrific and then they open their mouth and sawdust comes out. So
That's quite an image, isn't it?
isn't it? So here's how I integrated my surgery. Well, I think I did. Because when you're diagnosed with cancer, it's very, you get, it set me back for about 30 seconds
Or more.
or more. And then after the fact, you become paranoid because then you think every time you have a little ache or pain or a little lump, you go, must be cancer, must be back.
Yeah.
Because the belief is if once you have those cancer cells, they're going to be there for the rest of your life and it could come back. Okay,
Yeah.
so I immediately, and I went, no, early detection. It wasn't even stage 1 yet when I went in.
Really?
It was
That's
below stage 1 because I had hemorrhaging, and I went immediately the next day to my doctor who got me into with a specialist. So I go to meet my surgeon. I'm going to this big, scary place, big cancer clinic in Edmonton. Everybody's on walkers and they're weighing at 50 pounds. And it's, and I went by myself. I didn't take my husband with me. I didn't take a girlfriend. I didn't take anybody. I just went by myself because I didn't want them feeding me. Oh my gosh, did you see that person?
yeah.
Wasn't that
Yeah.
terrible? You know, so I just went myself. And my surgeon said, I had a notebook with me. And she said, you're going to take notes? I said, oh, yes, because I want a picture. You've got a little whiteboard there. I want to see what it is exactly you're going to do. And I'm going to draw the picture. Well, she said, we're going to go in and we're going to do this and we're going to take your ovaries and blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, she said, do you have anything you'd like to say? I said, absolutely. You can take the baby carriage, but you better leave the playpen because I'm not finished with that yet. Now, this was a gynecologist. This is all she does, day in and day out. And she's probably 40 something. Very good, very, very, very incredible doctor. And she didn't laugh. She looked a little confused. And she said, I have never had anybody ever say that to me, ever.
And you didn't learn it in school either.
No, they didn't teach you that in medical school. I said, well, if you are as good as you say you are, then I will be cancer-free probably when I come out of the operating room. And 6 weeks later, I got my report and I had to take any medication or chemo or radiation or anything.
It
And I want,
is. It is so
oxygen
important.
kills
Yes.
cancer.
Yeah. You.
Breathe your way out of it. I mean,
Well, and it's a belief too. Something happened, I'm
yes.
sure, if you look back at it, maybe 2, 3 years ago, that activated or went before this event, not the
Yes.
2 or 3 before now, that set off a pattern in their system that, and I'm sure we could investigate that, but it is, at least it almost always is that way. And what we don't realize is what's happening. Um, I had to
Oh, I
take
know
care of,
the yeah.
yeah,
I know that. I know the exact thing.
yeah.
I never thought of it till you just said that, but yes.
And you know what it is.
Yes.
Oh my.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you look, and I was taking care of my mom in 2000 and 2001, and she passed away in 2001. And it had been so difficult. And then to have the 9/11 event. And by 2022, I mean, 2002, I also had a similar experience where I did, but it wasn't diagnosed as cancer, but I thought it could be because all of that stress had done such a job on me, and I was working all the time as well. And, like on going to trade shows, and like in San Francisco. And then my brother calls me, your mom she's just not good. She's not good. And she won't go to the hospital. And I'm in San Francisco, right? I can't get there to take care of her. So it's always when we're in a stressful state. That's why if I can help anybody out there, please give me a call, because I just love to help people get through an event, or to be able
Mhm.
to take the next step in your life and free yourself of all of this past confusion and upset and sadness. Um, I've gone through it. I have the stabbing. I had my feet cut up in the lawnmower when I was 12. My dad left the family, and it just been. I could go on, and so can Laurie. Go on about different events that have happened to us. But what are we now? You said we would look at what is life now, and it's beautiful. I'm with my soulmate, the man that I've loved for 54 years. uh so fortunate. We took a detour from each other for 15 years, and when we saw each other again, it was just, we're back together. We've been back together over 20 years. So it's just, that's beautiful, being able to write and do my books, be able to come and speak on a show like this with a wonderful person like Dr. Laurie. I mean, it's been beautiful. And there's always more that I'd like to do. But I'm so happy to see so many young people taking up the mantle and saying, okay, we're going to help the people of this world. We don't have to be miserable. We've got to believe that somehow life is difficult. There's so much trouble. There's so many challenges. And those are all beliefs. The more you say that life is easy and fun, that everything comes to me without any effort. It's just instantaneously, it starts to
Mhm.
flow. We use those beliefs, it starts to shift our lives. And you don't have to put up with anything. I mean, the narcissistic people that are out there, that so many people get hooked up with. Unfortunately, my brother was one of them. He had me pretty well around his finger for a long time, which was very difficult. And he,
Mhm.
unfortunately, or fortunately for him, I think because he'd reached the end of his tether, passed away. But the relief of knowing that he's redoing himself on another plane is helpful, because there's so many people that take advantage of you, and so you've got to have your boundaries, which I didn't have, and know when to say no, please.
Yes. Yes. Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing that triggered the cancer, when you brought that up, I thought, oh, I know exactly what that was, because during COVID, uh, I was hanging on to my business by my fingernails
Yeah.
because I bring people in for retreat work, and now I couldn't bring anybody in. And I had a big retreat center, and that's gone. And
Yeah.
then our home, we let that go, all right around the same time.
Wow.
And this was my life's work. And I thought, now what am I going to do? And I'd been working virtually for years and years. I knew it wasn't going to be over. And then in the meantime, my husband, Ron, he'll be 82 in September. 8 acres of lawn to mow twice a week. It was just too much.
Right.
And I miss my house. I miss it, but it was the stress of making those decisions and having to downsize, let things go, give things up. And now it's like the phoenix coming up out of the ashes,
Yeah.
because the place that we found to live is a 4-unit building, and it's
Perfect.
new. Yeah. And so we had the main level on one side, and there were people on the other side, and 2 single people downstairs. I now have 3 of the 4 units. I told my landlord, when that person moves out, you let me know. So I have a even better setup, because my home is there. I can close the door, walk around the outside of the building, come in the side. I have beautiful big space for working. My studio is here and everything. And then on the other side, I turned it into a little retreat center. I have 4 beds. And I'm just waiting for the other unit. And I'm going to take that too, because wouldn't be the first time I took over a building.
Wow.
But I'm bringing people in, Verlaine, to do certain things. Now I have a friend of mine coming from Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. She's got a one-way ticket to my home. I'm picking her up on Sunday. She's published 20 books. She's owned her own publishing company, and she's put together the most beautiful 3-day workshop for people who need to get their books out.
Perfect.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
So, there's nothing stopping us from you coming. Like
That would
we
be
have to,
interesting.
yeah, we have to work together, because I do
Yes.
one aspect, you do another aspect. Sylvia's all about helping people tell their stories.
And
There's so many beautiful people in my life right now.
we are very fortunate. Very
We
fortunate.
are.
And
We are.
that's what everyone else there, anybody that's paying attention, we are not young chickens anymore, but
Heck
the
no.
energy is here.
Hmm.
I'm in December, I'm going to be 80 years old.
Can you believe it?
I,
You,
I,
you don't look at it. I just turned 74.
yeah, yeah, you don't look at it all. And it's like, what does that mean? It means that your energy of your body is harmonized.
Right.
It's working together. I mean, yes, I get a few pains, a little soreness here or there, not much, and then it goes away. Why? Because I'm helping to heal it. I'm helping to bring that together, and then I'm looking at, okay, why is it there? What is the complaint going on the ship? Why is that
Okay.
part of the ship in trouble?
Yeah.
And
Right.
I just, it has helped so much to have that vision of how to be whole so that you are sailing and you go into port and you rest and you relax and you do the things that you love. I learned to paint about 4 years ago, and I always had kind of wanted to do that, and was in Costco and saw an easel, a little mobile easel, portable.
Yes.
And so I did my first painting. John and I had not completely got back together. Well, he was going back and forth between Europe and here, and I did these. What did I do? The lotus blossoms, right?
Oh, yes.
And he came in. He says, "You're really good," and he's an artist as well as a writer and designer and all the other things he is. And he says, "I'm going to get you a big easel and some paints and some canvases." And so I got to paint. Right? You can do so many things. There's so many beautiful talents that never get explored because we always think we have to be doing something else, and we spend too much time texting and too much time watching TV. And I'm begging you, change your life enough to give some time for that meditation.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, going out in the garden and working in the garden and ranging plants and stuff is a meditation. And go for walks without your phone. Only have the phone to take a photo of something beautiful. And these are some of the things that I recommend for people.
Great. Awesome. Well, I cannot believe where this hour has gone. We could go on for another hour, but
Easily.
our time is just about up. And I just want to thank you so very much for coming in and sharing more information with us. And congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
And I'm coming to California, by the way, so we'll get to meet in person.
That would be fun.
And yeah, that'll be fun. I've told a bunch of the girls that. So I'll keep you posted on that. And of course, our event in November, we're going to be doing an event, ladies and gentlemen, called the Recovery Summit. We did it, and you can do it too. And Verlaine has accepted an invitation to be one of our special speakers. We've got a
Definitely.
beautiful lineup. All right. Well, tomorrow and Thursday, recorded shows. I'm off to do a workshop this week, so please help yourself and enjoy a recorded show. Everything is archived in E360 TV and also on our YouTube channel. So you can go into the YouTube channel or the Facebook page, Self-Worth the Missing Link Superstars, and share the show. That's the only thing I ask, is for our viewers to share the show. Actually, one of my shows landed in the hands of a celebrity, well-known celebrity in California, because we did a movie review
Oh,
of the Elvis movie. And so that show landed somewhere pretty special. So we never know where we're going to land, right?
that sounds good.
Okay. Verlaine,
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
Thank
Oh, you're
you for
welcome.
having me.
You're welcome. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye bye.